Welcome back to the 5e Frontier, folks. Hope you've had a good break. I certainly have. Not quite finished my biscuits, but I think we're good to go. Okay, so we have Rewi and Zitai having definitely captured, perhaps kidnapped, a sickly-looking bow individual who was seemingly minding his own business, fishing in these this like large cluster of boulders and craggy bluffs that stick up out of the terrain around here. You've paralyzed him with a poisoned arrow. You've tied him up, and you're hauling him back to the rest of your group. I think Garrick, Cowardice, you guys would be able to see them coming with this bow. You'd have seen the whole thing transpire just from reasonably far away. What would you guys do as they're approaching?
I'm taking note of how my bowpack is reacting to this, with it being one of his species. Just having a little look at him, seeing what analogy he's making of the situation.
Sure. Give me an insight check. No, in fact, give me an animal handling check.
Okay. That's an 18.
So, the bow child seems to have no reaction to this larger bow approaching.
Well, and whisper in his ear, heartless.
Yeah, it just looks up at you like blank, glassy eyes, just staring at you. It's
pat him on the head.
He tries to bite your hand.
And quickly move it away.
Yeah.
We're not that close yet.
You're much closer than it would prefer, it seems. What about Garrick?
I guess I'll just prepare to make sure like the arrow and the poison isn't killing it. So just ready myself to like give the bow a once over when it gets here.
Sure. So you arrive presently. The bow in your custody isn't stirring, but it's alive. But it doesn't seem to be resisting or struggling at all. Whether it's because it's still under the effect of the poison, or because it's just not resisting, it's unclear. You can give me a medicine check if you like, Brad. Medical science.
Yeah, sure. 20.
So, your medical opinion here is that it's probably a bit of both. Like, it seems that the poison has affected it, but not seriously. Like, it would still be struggling to move, but it could be struggling if it wanted to. Not enough that it could escape, but it isn't struggling regardless.
I'll say perhaps we should sit them up, see if we can strike up a conversation.
Zitai will maneuver the bow into position.
Sure. Like, you set it up next to a boulder, say. And like, you bring it to a little bit. It looks around at you guys, and then like tilts its head back a bit, and it opens its mouth a little bit with its tongue poking forward slightly, and then closes its eyes.
I'll say, can you understand me?
It does not respond in any way.
Okay. I'd like to apologize for the rough treatment. We've had some run-ins with a number of your kind recently that didn't end so favorably for us. We did this just as a precaution. I'd like to ask you some questions, and then we can perhaps send you on your way with after treating your wound.
It doesn't respond.
I'd like to know if you recognize or know of anyone that could be from a similar tribe to us.
Just
No.
sits there with its eyes closed, its tongue slightly out, its mouth open.
I'm guessing it wants food.
So give me a biology check, perhaps.
It's one I don't have. I can roll it anyway, I guess.
Yeah, like you've got, you're scientifically trained. You've got some background knowledge.
A 10.
10. It looks a little bit like basking behavior.
Okay. Okay. I guess, I believe reptiles tend to do that when they're cold, right?
Trying to warm up, certainly.
Yeah.
Fireball.
Warm the rest
Down to
of
dog
Warm
self.
for the rest of the life.
Yeah, I guess, I'll, like, gather some nearby twigs and things and just light a small fire.
Sure.
Nearby. Perhaps we could wait here and, I don't know, cook some of any of the raw food we've got left over while we wait to see if they'll come to.
I'll go get some of the fish it was trying to hunt.
Okay.
Perhaps me being out of the situation might assist.
Yeah, like I'll sit around and wait for a little bit, see if its behavior changes.
Yeah.
At all.
So once the heat of the fire actually reaches it, it cracks open the one eye and kind of looks at the fire and looks at you. And, it looks at you for a good full minute, just staring at you.
Yeah, I'll let that minute pass before I go. Are you willing to talk now?
It says, I find my current situation unpleasant. I may be more willing to engage you in conversation if you were to remove my bindings, perhaps.
I can perhaps remove some of them.
I'll lean over to Garrick and quietly say, it might be worth doing. He's already unstrung his bow. I'll be standing ready if he tries anything.
Okay. I'll say, well, we can certainly do that. If you'd be willing to answer some questions.
I will be willing to listen to questions. But sometimes the only answers that are satisfactory are ones you find yourself.
That is a fair point. But isn't you answering them for me a way of me finding them myself?
It makes kind of this hacking noise in the back of its throat. And then it says, that is the expected position of a smooth skin.
We found a philosopher.
Well, remove your bindings for now, and we can contemplate the theory of questions at some point, I'm sure. But if you'll at least listen to them and answer if you want, that would be helpful.
Sure. He'll like allow you to unbind him, and once you unbind him, like he kind of like lounges in front of the fire to expose like maximum surface area to it. He doesn't ask you to ask your questions. He's just going to lounge by the fire.
I guess I'll just start then. We were wondering if you'd seen any more people dressed similarly to us. We're currently looking for quite a large number of people, you see. Have you seen anyone like us?
I've seen many smooth skins in my time.
Not just
They're
smooth
always
skins.
looking, in my experience, smooth skins are always looking for more of their kind.
I'm specifically looking for people that would be dressed similarly to us in these sort of uniforms, I guess, with these sorts of symbols or insignia on their clothes.
No.
Can I insight that?
You can incite it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he denied it very quickly. I mean, I'm not very good at it. I got 9.
9. It's difficult to say. Like it could, like he was just. It sounds like he's just like being dismissive. Like doesn't really care about the question. Like it doesn't seem that this question's very interesting to him.
Okay. I'll say, how about, have you seen any large objects fall from the sky recently?
He says there have been many omens of late. I believe this was maybe the phenomenon you are referring to.
Yes. Perhaps our people are linked to these omens. We were scattered on the day these omens appeared in the sky. That is the reason we are looking for each other. That is why I'm asking these questions.
He says there were 4 falling stars in the sky on that day. Such a portent has not been observed for many, many generations. And always when such a portent is observed, it leads to great change and upheaval.
Yes. I believe perhaps, at least from my interpretation, our people have been scattered across different tribes. This could perhaps have a massive impact on the game, so to speak.
He just kind of like does that hacking noise dismissively when you mention the game.
Yeah. It is imperative that we find our people to stop anything untoward happening. Our people were never involved in the game to begin with.
He doesn't look particularly impressed by this and says, perhaps more people should follow your lead.
Perhaps that could be the change that these omens give. If we can unite our people again, perhaps we can begin enacting that change.
Oh, good luck to you.
Well, We would need help, is the only problem here.
Yes, and what help do you think an old bow who can't even catch a fish without being interrupted can help you with?
Well, we know that some of our people are in the nearby bow villages. If we can contact them and peacefully retrieve them, it would be in our best interests and the bows. I was wondering if you could perhaps help us with that.
He kind of rolls over and says, "No."
Is that no, you can't help, or no, you won't?
I'll leave that as an exercise for you to work out.
And he started with the statement that he's not seeing anyone like us. I say we leave him here with his fire so that he can bask and move off. Let him go return to his fishing.
Yes, we will leave you in peace, but I was wondering if you could perhaps point out where the nearest bow settlement is so we can go and negotiate.
He says, "Are you lost?"
We're not lost. We know where we're heading, but
Well, if you know where you're heading, then you're doing significantly better than the rest of us.
Well, I only know where I'm heading in the short term. Afterwards, it is anybody's guess. For example, I know that I'm going to head towards a lake and get on a boat. From there, it's anyone's game.
He said, "Well, if you're going to a lake near here, you don't need my directions."
I was told that a few of the bow villages moved, though.
This is true.
Are there at least a way to find where they are?
Follow the signs, Garrick. You'll be fine.
I will do my best to.
Sure.
How did he know my name?
Good question. You didn't tell him.
I'll kind of narrow my eyes at him when I say that.
He rolls over.
And I'll look towards Zitai and go, I didn't tell him my name.
I didn't hear you say it either.
I think Marat's left us for a second. Oh, no, he's back.
No, I just 404'd. Like, I 404'd. Like,
Sure.
I don't know what to do with this. Neither does Zitai. It's,
I think I'd like to ask him. I'd like to just step forward whilst these guys are talking and ask him what he desires. Master Bow, what do you desire? You're out here on your own. You're old. What is it you want from life?
He says, "Now, if only you can encourage your friends here to ask such sensible questions."
I'll turn to Garrick and Zita and say, "Come on, ask him."
I just can't imagine you've currently got the young bow tied to you and you're asking sensible questions.
Yeah, I mean, Calidus has moments of clarity. This is one of them.
Yeah,
he's spent listening to the conversation patiently.
Yeah, he says, "But if I knew the answer to that question, I wouldn't be here anymore."
Well, what is it you're hoping to meet out here? What are you working through in yourself out here?
He just looks at you like for a good 30 seconds, a minute, and says, When you're twice as old as you are now, return here and we can have that conversation.
I'll take you up on that, Master Bow. I mean, you're considering to live an exceptional amount of time longer.
Yes, well, whether I'm here or not, I'm sure you'll have some sort of clarity. I find fishing helps.
On that note, I'm going to sort of nod as a thank you and head up the rock to go fishing instantly.
Sure.
But rather than fish, I'm just going to stare into the pool with my bow drawn as he was. Wait for a while. See if the fish tell me anything.
Sure.
How many fish have I caught? My aim is to catch all of them.
Sure. It's a live check.
Survival, so that'd be +8. That's a 12. I'm not doing too well.
Yeah. So, like, these fish are, like, they're very good at avoiding arrows. Like, you catch a couple of them. But, like, it's almost like they're trained to avoid arrows. Almost. Like, they seem to know when you're, like, you know, they seem to sense it very, very quickly, more quickly than you'd expect.
That's cool. If I get frustrated, I might just poison them. We'll see.
Poison ball. Yeah.
I'm going to
yeah.
I'm going to adopt a different strategy to catch some fish. And I'm much like a cormorant fisherman using a cormorant to catch fish. I'm going to take my backpack off, my bow pack, and bind it round the neck very slightly, just tight enough so it wouldn't be able to swallow a fish. I'm going to hold the leash that I'm making from his neck, from his bindings in his hands, and forward him into the water, see if he can catch some fish.
Yeah. Sure. Like, as you give me a survival check, I guess, as you do.
Yes. Where's my dice roller? Come on. There we go.
I'm sure water torch has been made illegal on Toro.
That's a nat one. Defend badly.
So the bow is actually a really strong swimmer, like a really, really strong swimmer. Like, I assume you've got like a bit of rope you've attached it to, or you just like grab
it. A bit of rope around its now sort of leashed neck.
So I think that you've got a choice here, because it powers forwards much more strongly than you were expecting. Either you can let go of the rope here as it's kind of pulling you off balance, or you can keep hold of the rope but you're going in.
I'm going to let go of the rope. I'm going to let my bow pack have a swim. He's going in. I've lost him for a bit.
Yeah, sure. Like, he goes, swims off to the other end, leaps out, and starts just sprinting away.
Calidus is going to make a run after his bow pack. I'm running through the wilderness after my bow pack, trying to grab hold of the string the rope that's tied around him.
The Benny Hill theme.
Yeah, the bow philosopher. Yeah. Look, the bow philosopher looks at Garrick and says, "Perhaps 3 times his age."
I'll just cut it none.
give me a check, George.
Yeah, I was just going to take a roll athletics. Am I going to get him back? That's a 15.
15. Yeah, so after about a minute of hard chasing, he starts to run out of breath. You don't. It seems like he's got a good sprint on him. This bow, but a jog, you're going to beat him any day.
As I get up to him, I'll rebind him and sort of say, "Naughty bow pack," and then he goes back on the back.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything. It just gets put on your back.
I mean, I assume by this point as well, because it must be quite cold if the other one wanted to bask, that he must be appreciating the warmth from my body warming him up as a backpack, at least slightly.
Perhaps. very difficult to tell. It's not sentient.
Well, I hope I'm warming him up. It makes me feel good to know that I might be warming him up a bit.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I think you've got a gold medal in mental gymnastics there.
It's a bit of a self-absorbed situation, but if it's bringing me happiness, and I think that it's bringing it happiness, it's an overall good situation.
Sure. So, does Garrick or Zatai maybe have any more questions for this guy?
I'll just outright ask him. How do you know my name?
I'm very perceptive.
Do I look down and just see a name badge?
No.
But I'll say, well, you seem to have me at a disadvantage. You know my name, but I don't know yours. Can I ask for your name?
You can certainly ask.
Will you give it, though?
Well, I don't think I have one to give.
Do bow in general not have names?
Well, bow in general have names. I just don't have a use for one. But if you insist on having something to call me, then decide on something.
Well, part of me is tempted to go with the Philosopher.
Well, I can say if you feel no need for a name, I don't think it would be wise of me to give you one.
Then
Names
proceed
can sometimes
under
be a
that understanding.
I think if you have no information you wish to give us to aid us on a journey, other than what you've already given, I can perhaps treat your wound and we can be on our way.
He says, "Thank you, but I feel you may need all of your healing in the coming days."
Well, if that wasn't an ominous warning, I don't know what else is. But thank you.
I don't need any. I don't need the experience that life has. I only need the experience life has given me to come to that conclusion. You met me, and your first response was to shoot me with an arrow. You're certainly going to need healing in the coming days.
Yes, well,
as I sort of stumble back up out of breath, fastening my bowpack back on, I'd like to ask him if he'd like anything from us. I mean, we've got lots of knowledge. I mean, he's perceptive to that. Is there anything he wishes to learn from us, just as a boon, as an apology?
Peace and quiet.
I can't teach him it, but hopefully you find it one day.
I'm sure he'll find it the moment we leave.
Yeah, the pond's nearly empty.
This one is also perceptive.
I have my moments.
Yeah. He says, "I thank you for the fire, though."
Yeah, we probably should have opened with conversation.
That would be the traditional approach.
Unfortunately, the first time we encountered other bow, they met us with arrows. We expected that to be the traditional greeting.
I see. Well, I am disappointed to see that you colour all of my race with the same brush.
Having met you, I now know better.
perhaps we could leave with one of our traditional greetings. A handshake, perhaps.
He looks at you like he kind of turns around and looks at you kind of blankly.
I'll hold up my hand and try to explain the process of a handshake. And see if he'll bite or not bite.
It's exactly the thing we were hoping to avoid.
Yeah, like he'll sit up and he'll like shake your hand. He can go. He'd say, "Fascinating."
we learn more about the people and here every day. I'm sure we'll learn more in the future.
I have no doubt that you will. Well, if you have any need of me, you know where to find me. But for now, I would like peace and quiet.
Of course. I guess I'll just put the last few twigs and things I've got on the fire and shrug and go, well, I suppose that was useful, and I'll start walking away.
Sure. He just sits next to the fire, basking.
I'm still fishing, so please let me know you're going.
We'll have to walk past you, I guess.
Yeah, well, not that close past you, but I think Rory will be able to see them, making off.
Alright, okay. In that case, obviously, the catch I've got, I'll just drop it next to the fire. On the way through. Oh. Good day!
Yeah,
that's all I'll say. You just carry on.
Doesn't respond. As you guys leave, by the way, you would notice that he isn't injured anymore.
This is some strange bow sorcery.
My inkling here is perhaps he's similar to the white gorilla, which we saw the white ape.
Similar to the Guardians.
Yes.
Maybe he has access to similar magics, but as we look back, as we're about to hit the tree line, is he still there?
Still there. Yeah, he's
okay.
Asking, he's not just disappeared.
Okay.
Into the wind as we walk away.
He is real. He's not some sort of spirit.
Okay. It was a genuine concern of mine for a second there.
I guess as we're walking away, we can ask Running River about it.
Running River shrugs and says, "You do find the occasional hermit around. I suppose he's just a hermit. The bow are solitary creatures by nature, regardless. So it's not out of the ordinary to see one of them become a hermit."
I suppose I'll ask Barry if he could, mark it on the map where we found him, just in case we do need to come back in 40 years, 50 years time to see if the prophecy is true, and we have learned all we need to know at that point.
I'll mark it on the map. I'm more concerned that he's going to tell someone of our presence.
Well, let's not kill him. I know what you're thinking, Rory, but he seems harmless enough.
The best scouts always do. I just look at you and smile.
Ellis is kind of put back by that, sort of shields his little backpack and keeps walking forward.
Sure. Okay, so I guess the five of you continue northwards up to the tree line. The rest of the trip is, up to the tree line at least, is pretty uneventful. You don't run into anyone else or anything else really. Kind of far off to the west, you can see that there are, maybe several miles away, you can see that there are some very, very large dinosaurs. I think Diplodocus is the name for the really long-necked ones. But they seem to be grazing on the very tops of the trees in the jungle, moving along the tree line. They are at least 100 feet tall. These measured from the feet to the top of the head. They're extremely large. And they're moving in a herd of maybe 5 or 6 individuals, with a couple of smaller young ones as well. But other than that, you don't really see anything on the way major. Are you forging ahead through the trees to get to the river? As you get to the edge of the forest, running river would say the river is perhaps half an hour's walk north of here. As long as we head north, we can't miss it. It runs east-west.
Yeah, I say we
Sounds like a solid
forge
plan.
ahead to the river. Make sure the path is relatively clear. That's the whole point of scouting, right?
Yes, I might get the pride to avoid the sage old toad.
Well, we'll just let them know to leave him be as we're passing by.
I'm not sure that our sensibilities of ignoring a bow, which is a harmful enemy to the Aruba, would follow through.
Hey, Running River, are they likely to just forge off and attack a bow on his own?
We have no quarrel with the bow.
I think you're being overly cautious, Rory. We'll just, as long as he leaves us alone, we should leave him alone.
I'll nod and go, it's up to you. I'm just a scout here.
Yes, scout for wilderness. This is a people thing.
Yes, like those bow in the trees that shot us. Not wilderness, but people.
Yeah, they were just people who wanted to hurt us. That one doesn't.
Intentions are hard to find. I suggest being more defensive than offensive, I guess.
Running River at this point does a big stretch and says, so are we going north then?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we'll take Running River's leading. If it's only a half an hour walk north through the woods, we should probably make that trek now.
He nods, says, well, I'll let you pathfind. It's not the jungle is denser than my people like.
Okay.
I'll smile and forge a path forward.
Sure. This jungle is about as dense as your people like, however.
Yes.
The Rewi is very, of course, being from a very, very densely forested, or at least the part of the planet he was from was very, very densely forested. Quite similar to parts of Shrike. But yeah, give me a survival check. See how good a path you can find.
Certainly can. That's a 16.
Okay. You find a pretty solid path forwards, path north through the jungle. It is about half an hour, as Running River said, before you come to this. Before you come to a river, it's not as large as the one you were on before, not by a long shot, but it was about the size of the river when you left it. So you'd say this river's probably a tributary of a larger river, perhaps. You'd also note that it's quite silty. The water in this river, like it's pretty much opaque, very very murky, and it's got sort of a green tinge to it.
I'm guessing there's not a horizon as such then, if we can see across the river.
Yeah, like it's perhaps 60 feet across, no more.
I guess I'll take a long, hard look, kind of both ways, down the river and up the river, to make sure I can't see any kind of settlements or boats.
Sure. Give me I think a perception check here, but survival would also be applicable because I guess you're technically looking for tracks.
I go for perception. It's the same roll for me, lucky enough. which is a 17.
Cool. So as you look up and down the river, you do note that there are signs of people coming through here. Reasonably regularly by the look of it, but not super recently. Like you can see signs of people like dragging boats, dragging canoes in and out of the water, which would kind of make sense. This is the way you would go if you were traveling, if you were traveling like the exact route that you are traveling. The Malak people, if they're trading for tar, would use this route that you're using to move to and from the town you were just in. So it makes sense that there are signs that people have used these riverbanks to put canoes into the river before.
I'll turn to the others and go, I'm surprised they've just not built a bridge.
Well, they're traveling along the river. This is just a good stop, the best stopping point.
But even so, like, to get to the other landmass.
I guess they don't need to go to the side of the river. They just need to go along it. A dock, perhaps.
Yes. It's weird how little infrastructure.
Well, that's the thing I've noticed about all the buildings. They're all, like, all of them are temporary.
I guess that's the problem with a dragon decimating your population every few years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they
I mean,
force everything back to the beginnings every time.
I mean, the only buildings we've seen that looked semi-permanent were on the mountain near where we crashed. They were rubble by the time we got there.
Yeah.
Curious.
Nothing seems permanent.
And infrastructure like a bridge or a dock is a permanent thing.
Yeah, no roads either.
Yeah, they don't seem to have permanency in mind when with anything. Hell, the boat tear up a camp and move on.
I do admire how close they live to nature, though. That's admirable. No roads, no permanent structures, just things that can blend back into nature in the end.
My people used to be forced to move on due to, well, the wildlife. So I wonder if something similar is happening here, but the wildlife is this dragon.
Could also be due to the raids. We saw some of the Yoruba's huts burnt due to a raid. With the frequency of them, it could just not be worth building things out of scarce resources, like stone.
It might also be that they don't have the time in between raids to actually build something permanent.
A year is a lot shorter here than it is on Ember, after all.
It's like, what, 3 months?
1 month.
1 month. Yeah, it's a week long each season. So, like, that's not enough time to build something up when you've got, like, between, like, the end of, like, a monsoon season and the next monsoon season, literally a couple of weeks. There's no time to build permanent infrastructure.
It's curious.
So between raids and a dragon, I don't suppose they have much thought for it.
Raids, dragon, and monsoons, like.
Yes. Oh my.
That's an episode title.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we found where we can begin our journey downriver. Now we just need to gather everyone up, I suppose.
Yes. back to the Aruba, I guess.
Okay, so the group of you begin the quick trek back to the Yoruba. Again, you don't make any major encounters. You reach them and head back towards the river with them. Do you have any interactions you want to do during the travel back to them, or the travel up to the river with them? Or is it just a case of getting on with the journey?
Only to check if the hermit is still by his pool. See if we can see the fire that's still going.
Yeah. So the fire's mostly burnt out. He's not put any more fuel on it. He's just let it run its course. You didn't build an especially big fire, so it's lasted an hour or so by the look of it. Then it's burnt out and he's left. He is
Cool.
back. Back by the pool that he was by before with his bow and his arrows. He seems to be kind of looking down into it. He's not got his bow drawn or anything. He's just kind of thinking by the look of it, pondering.
Pondering by the pond. I think we'll leave him to it. It's nice to know he's still there, though.
Yeah. He presumably can see you as you pass by, but he's not acknowledging you.
I wonder if we show him the symbols we found on the building before the town.
I don't think he's in a sharing mood after our last interaction with him, Rowie.
If he recognises them, at least we know they're further afield.
I think we leave him be and hope that the next time we meet a learned individual, our initial interaction with him isn't you shooting him.
No, if you knocked him out, I wouldn't need to.
I think that would have gone worse for us.
Yes, I guess I am more adept. I'll just carry on.
Sure.
I think on that note, I'll try and usher people back to the river for a little tense moment. Come on, let's go back to the river.
Yeah, sure.
This is the way to go, boys.
Yeah, I guess you cowardice would be the best place to notice that Zitai is getting annoyed.
Yeah, more of a hand on her back. Come on, brother. We've got a river to get to.
Sure.
Yeah, I really want to make sure Rowie gets to the river.
So as you guys pass by the site where you made the fire, by the way, you'd note that he's left the fish there, he didn't touch them.
I'll pick them up. That's food.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can take them, but it seems that he didn't want them for whatever reason.
Best answers in life are the ones you find yourself. Is something similar to what he said?
Yeah, that's a good paraphrase.
Mm.
This isn't an answer, this is food.
Food is an answer to the question of hunger. Zitai is looking incredibly pleased with himself, for philosophizing.
I'll just scratch my head.
I'll take one of the fish and feed it to the backpack.
Sure.
I mean, just to check that. I mean, I want to know that, will bows eat these fish? I mean, if it eats the fish, I know that he's probably philosophizing over stuff and doesn't want our fish, rather than not being hungry or not being adverse to eating the fish.
It eats the fish. It just wolfs it down.
Question answered. Lovely.
But it wolfs the fish down. You guys take the rest. Some of the Yoruba comment to each other about the weirdo up on the rocks over there, but none of them seem particularly bothered or threatened by him, and are quite content just to leave him there. Leave him to his own devices. In due time, you reach the river and slide the canoes down the bank into it, and start heading east. These canoes are a bit smaller than the ones you had before, so you've got more of them. It would be like you would be in kind of separate canoes, maximum of 2 of you in each. You'd have essentially 2 Yoruba and 2 of you guys, and that would fill up one of the canoes.
I'll avoid zip ties.
Yeah. Sure.
Wise.
That's fine. But the Yoruba, sorry, they push the boats down the bank into the water, and they start rowing with their powerful strokes down the river. Like as you get into the boats and head down the river, like it will occur to Rowie as well that the water is quite greenish. It is very unusual, you would know, to find lots of like algae like this in moving water. In stagnant water, yeah, you see you might see lots of algae like a big algal bloom. But it's very odd to see that like there's so much algae in like flowing water like this.
I guess I'll take a water sample.
Sure.
I can boil it about later and like kind of try and check it out a bit later on.
Sure.
But yeah, that is a bit weird. I'm assuming it's farmed somehow by the boa, by the bow even.
Possibly.
That'd be my first thoughts, but yeah, I'll find out if it's like naturally occurring, I guess, or kind of the water isn't as watery as we thought.
Sure.
I think noticing that Rary is bottling up the water and looking strangely at the green bloom, I'll turn to Running River and say, Running River, do you know much about this Running River?
He doesn't acknowledge the choice of words, but he
Okay.
says, you can't drink the water here.
Well, just took one thing off my list. Thank you very much.
But I don't know. I don't know much about the river itself. I've only been here a couple of times, and I've never, I've gone down the route, but that's always downstream from here. I've not. It's never something that's been important enough to investigate.
Okay. Well, thank you for your wise insight, as always.
He kind of like looks at you, like almost like semi-suspiciously, like why are you being so polite? But then, yeah, he just goes back to his study.
I'm happy with that. I'll position my backpack slightly next to the water so we can have a nice view as we're traveling.
Yep, sure. Like at any opportunity, it would try and jump in the water.
No, I've got him held. Don't worry. He's very firmly held. He's just got a nice view of the water.
He could motor you along, like he's that strong swimming. Like just use him as an outboard motor.
Yeah. So you'd know as you're like doing this, like some of the Yoruba are giving you like really weird looks.
Yeah, they think I'm strange. I agree that that I probably am strange. I mean, this is completely alien to me and them. But I like animals, and I'm just trying to give him the best time he can have whilst being in captivity.
Sure.
We're building a bond.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I think that. I don't think that Bo thinks that, but Calidus definitely thinks that.
Sure. Okay. So the next thing that you guys would encounter as you head down the river is about an hour after heading down this river. You make quite good pace. The river runs reasonably quickly, and the Yoruba are rowing powerfully, so you're making good time. The river does in fact join a larger one. It's much larger and slower, and the water here isn't as green. The greenness from the particular tributary you were on kind of dissipates into the wider the wider river. But after maybe 20 minutes of heading down the river, you would note that on the north bank, on the left, you'd see that there are several like very, very mossy stone structures. They are obviously like ruins. Nobody lives here. But like they're built kind of like a little way up the bank of the river, on like a section of kind of stony, like rocky ground rather than like soily ground. And it's kind of in the river is kind of curving around to the left here. So clearly there is like some kind of hard rock in the ground to the left of the river, which is why as the river's cut down into the terrain, it's kind of gone down and around this section of hard rock. But there's some buildings on the left there. They are square and almost kind of like pyramidal in structure. Each one is anywhere between 10 feet to 40 feet across. And there seems to be like, 7 or 8 of these buildings just kind of like merging into the tree line on your left. You can see that there are like what appear to be doorways, but it's difficult to tell. The stone is quite weathered and corroded, and is absolutely covered in moss and lichen. So you can see what you think are doorways, but it's difficult to make out any other details of these buildings. Notably, like they're a completely different architectural style than those first buildings you found before you met the Yoruba, and they're also of a different architectural style than the standing stones you found in the plains.
Turn around to Garrick and go, I think we should investigate these.
What time of day is it?
Like, you've had the little night. The sun has passed behind the gas giant that this planet orbits. So it's getting, reasonably late in the day. Not time to stop yet, but, reasonably late. Like, it seems you're probably going to stop in about half an hour.
I'll say, Running River, do you know anything about these structures?
I don't know anything about them specifically, but based on their architecture, it's from the period of the Second People.
I think perhaps we have a look on our way back if we've got time. I know we have to come back this way. I think the less detours we have right now. My main concern here is, to be honest, saving our people and stopping fly infection.
Yeah, we were going to be stopping in about half hour-ish anyway. Would it be so bad if we stop a little early today? Have a look at whatever that is?
I think the Yoruba would, I think they, if you wanted to stop here, I'm sure we could talk to Forging Rain and she'd be happy to stop the expedition a little early.
If I were lost in the wilderness and I saw shelter that I could retrofit, I would use that rather than trying to build my own. We might be able to find signs of our people here.
Okay, if we should have a look then, I guess.
Sure. So I guess Running River goes and has a quick conversation with Forging Rain, the leader of the expedition, and she calls a slightly early halt. The canoes all pull over onto the north side of the river. The Yoruba lions kind of like, they tie up the boats and they start making camp and things. They don't really seem to be interested in the buildings. Like, they're just setting up camp outside them by the bank of the river. But, you guys can investigate them at your leisure, I suppose.
Yeah, have a look about, see if we can find signs of anyone being here recently.
Sure. So I think that calls for some kind of ability check there.
I'll just look towards Rere and we're like, can you see any footprints?
I'm looking for signs of survival. I know normally it would be investigation, but because it's like I'm looking for signs of survival, like old fires and things, more than like anything else.
Yeah, sure.
Right, sound. Alright, it's a 22.
22, nice. So as you like move between these these buildings, it's it's very it's kind of eerie almost. Like they're clearly very very old, these buildings, and they've lasted a long time. And clearly, like these people used to live here. It's set up like a little fishing village. Um, but at some point it was abandoned. You don't know how long ago, but it was clearly a very, very long time ago. In terms of more recent habitation, you don't find anything like that's really like promising. Like you can find that like there are tracks that are consistent with like that kind of bird that you found and hunted just before you met Tox people. There's that you can see that there's another few more animal tracks. There was a group of humanoids here at some point, by the look of it. But like there is a fire pit that's been built in one of the buildings, but it's very old, possibly weeks ago. One thing that I think you would spot though is on the outer edge of the buildings. There are fist-sized chunks of stone that have been taken out of one of the walls. Now, these walls are quite thick. They're made of, these are like 3-foot thick walls, so they can maintain a very constant temperature indoors. It's quite a common way of building buildings across the galaxy. But you can see that there are fist-sized chunks of stone that have been taken out, kind of in like a couple of like loose lines. On the outsides of one of these walls, and you can see similar damage to some of the other structures as well.
Blaster fire.
Yeah, that would be consistent with a heavy blaster being shot at the buildings. Yeah.
So our people have been here, Garrick. I would say several weeks ago by the fire.
The moss and lichen grows just as thickly inside the blaster holes as it does everywhere else.
Oh, that's weird.
Not so weird if you remember our first conversations with Running River.
Yes.
He recognized the idea, at least, of blasters. He mentioned this is something called the Second People. Maybe we should ask about them and potentially the First. And find out.
The First People before.
Yeah, like briefly in line with the Bones of the Earth, which is what they call the Adamantine, right?
Yes, yeah.
Maybe we should sit down for a history lesson.
I'm gonna think that if I was an Empire attacking party, I'd want the high ground to remove the village. So if I was to empty this village and like shoot the people, I'd be coming down from the higher ground. So I'm gonna kind of scout up, kind of the bank side a bit, I think, to see if I can see kind of any left kind of weaponry and things, because obviously this place has been abandoned and hasn't been disturbed for quite some time.
Sure.
So I'm doing some history, I guess.
Yeah. So you're aware that the Galactic Empire has been in existence for at least 20,000 years. Nobody is quite sure how old it is. It's once you get that deep into history, facts become indistinguishable from propaganda, unfortunately. But there were imperial, like perhaps there were Imperials here, but it might be so long ago that any traces of stuff like weapons might be gone. but you can certainly give me perhaps an investigation check, or if you want to spend a bit more time on it and come at this from an archaeological perspective, I'd accept a history check.
I think I would do a history, and I'll spend a large portion of my evening, to be honest, scouting out this hillside, kind of trying to understand. Obviously, there's been a battle here. Battle always leaves kind of remnants, even if it's like empty mana crystals or whatnot on the ground.
Sure.
Just trying to find out. Because this is basically what we came here for. It's kind of throwing myself back into study. So that's an 18.
Sure. So yeah, over the course of the evening, in what light you have remaining, you kind of pick over the ground around this town and up the bank a little. You're able to like digging down into the ground in certain places, just like making some holes here and there. You are able to find a couple of artifacts. The first one is a very, very, very old cracked shard of white plastic. It's kind of buried. It's buried. You find it in one of your little, the holes you dig, but it's perhaps 2 inches long. This shard of white plastic, and maybe varying from an inch wide to a point at one end. And it's maybe a millimeter thick. It is based on the shape of it, it could be part of the casing of a blaster, maybe. It definitely looks like it was part of some kind of, man portable equipment, most likely. The second artifact you find is you'd be able to find that there are a number of bronze arrowheads and things like that you find around here, as well as a shitload of pottery.
Okay.
Shard pottery.
I'm not too interested in the pottery. The bronze arrowheads kind of thing, I can melt them down and use them for the goat's leg I need.
Yeah, you can. That is the thing you can do.
Yeah.
I think I just heard the sound of 1,000 archaeologists wailing in pain.
100%, but
I so hope your
one
wife
of them was
sees
your
this
wife,
episode.
You're going to melt down the archaeology. I dug up an artifact from an ancient era. Melt it down.
melt down that, and just show people, look, old plastic. Yeah, that's the important thing. I'm not trained in that kind of history, so I'm not really fussed. It's just pots.
Yeah. I should note as well, you also find a few stone arrowheads here as well.
Yeah, I'll make notes of these things, but they're no use to me now. And the plastic is more interesting to me because it's evidence of severely advanced civilization a long time ago.
Yeah, nothing. Nobody you've seen so far could remotely has the advanced enough technology to manufacture plastics.
So they might be able to make pot. I'm not fussed about that. We know they can make bronze, so I'm not really worried about bronze arrowheads. They're interesting, and stone. Meh. I'll write it all down, kind of thing, and kind of document as best I can. Be asked, but I'm not too fussed. I'll mention it to the group, but yeah, I'm not really that fussed about it.
Sure.
I think we're just lucky you can't melt the stone ones down as well. So at least we've got some documentation.
I'll just throw them in the bin.
Yeah.
Throw them in the river.
If that tries to happen, I'll take them. I'll take them if only to fletch arrows with.
They're just really flat skipping stones.
That's it. They're really good skipping stones.
Yeah. So while Rowi's doing his archaeology, what are the rest of you doing for the evening?
I'm gonna be asking Running River for a history lesson about like the second people.
Sure. So yeah, he'd explain. Like he'd sit down and say, so as we understand it, there are we call them peoples, but there are eras of people on the planet. The first people are the ones we know the least about. Um, it's not really history; it's more mythology. Every culture has their own stories about the first people. But one thing that agrees among all of the myths that I've been able to study is that they built the bones of the earth, um, and they shaped the island that we live on. They built the world. They also created the peoples that followed them as well, and they don't exist anymore. Those are the common trends in all of the myths. But everything else, all of the other details, vary as wildly as you can imagine, which is quite wildly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We have more history of the second people. The second people were quite a lot like us, we think. But they were united into a single tribe. Many of the large stone structures we see around us are from that period. We don't find many. I've not heard of many weapons being found from that period, so we think it was quite peaceful. But it's very again little is known, but we have stories. There are some of the most impressive ruins from that period can be found in the central jungles. There are quite extensive. There are quite extensive ruins there. But it's I've been meaning to visit them at some point, but perhaps once you're cured might be a good time for us to pay it a visit. The third people we know more about still. They were, we think, sky people as well. When they came, the second people ended. That time ended when the third people came. It was a time of suffering and strife, but eventually, they were driven off, killed, driven off and killed by a hero. Some say. Again, unfortunately, this delves more into myth than it does into history. But it was some people say that the third people were driven away by a dragon. That this hero was a dragon. Some people say it was Sovereign himself that drove away the third people. Some people say it was a humanoid. Nobody says it was a Yoruba, but that's by the by. And then, of course, we are in the age of the fourth people now, under the rule of Sovereign. And,
okay, so third people.
About that.
Yes, we know bits and pieces. We're picking that one up as we go. But third people being sky people, like that's the Empire. Like talking with whoever's with me for the history lesson.
Sure.
Did anyone else stay for the history lesson?
Yeah. Calidus would have. Sorry, Calidus would have sat down with you with the Bopac, so that the Bopac can learn as well.
So what? Like the first people would have been like what? Initial settlers building infrastructure with adamantine and the like. Do you think maybe they awakened or uplifted like creatures to be able to populate the world? Like at this point, he's not the most subtle person, but he's going to try and subtly like dart his eyes towards like Running River or the nearest Yoruba that happens to be walking by, like hinting that.
The interesting distinction in the story would be that the mythology seems to converge on the fact that these first people created the island that we live on by using the bones of the earth, and that's why we find them around here. I mean, it seems common in all sort of creationist theory, but it's an interesting distinction.
Yeah, but think of the size of some of the ships that we've worked on back in the day. Like ships coming along to like colonize a place, that's not unheard of, especially if you go back far enough. Like back when there were planets for the Empire still to colonize.
Yeah, the fact that the distinction of creating the island and creating the inhabitants of this island that we find ourselves on is interesting to me.
That's definitely interesting, but it's not far-fetched.
I mean, we've seen like world building by the Empire and terraforming and everything. So I guess it's not too far-fetched to think that a world could be created and maintained for at least an amount of time,
or at least terraformed.
And
then, like, what second people are the potentially like the start of like the ones that were uplifted.
Yeah.
For some reason, like the builders disappeared. Like maybe this was just a giant science project and they forgot about it.
Could have been. I mean, everything behaves like a petri dish in here.
Yeah. And then what, like third people, like the Empire coming back to check on the thing they built. The people not wanting to go as slaves. Like, who's this hero figure? I don't buy that it's. If it is Sovereign, then yeah, the power went to his head and now he's running this game. What?
Yeah. I mean, he could be running the game to keep it in check. I mean, he's seen the world go bad before. You never know.
You think Sovereign is decimating people and keeping them at war as a kindness?
Yes.
Stop them advancing the society far enough that the Empire will come a knocking again.
Sovereigns.
Well, that's the thing. So
yes.
yeah, let's think about it that way. So, what does the Empire want from planets? The Empire wants good bodies, slaves, servants, resources. Now, if Sovereign keeps the population low enough, every 10 years, so every 40 weeks, he decimates one tribe. Maybe that keeps it just low enough that the Empire's it's not on the Empire's radar anymore. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's applying a level of benevolence that I don't want to an individual that actively culls.
I mean, it's kind of, yeah.
And if that is their reasoning, then he can stop because we can get him to ally with Ember and the Alliance as a whole and levy some protection for Shrike, because that's a much better way of doing it than killing people that often.
Well, I'll leave the negotiating with a dragon to you, but I am open to it.
The only way I know to negotiate is violently, and I have a sneaking suspicion that will end badly if I'm negotiating violently with a dragon. Very badly indeed.
I'll be here for you, brother, just from the sidelines on that one.
What, to scoop up my ashes when he's not looking?
Yes.
Fair.
I'd like to think you do the same for me.
Nah, I'd be right there next to you.
Okay, we'll get toasted together. I'm sure Rary will try and pick something up. Or...
No, we wouldn't see him for the dust.
I mean, if any of your stuff survived.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone stands a chance of actually negotiating with Sovereign, it'll be Garrick. And from there, I will look from Calidus to Garrick and go, unlucky, mate.
Yeah. Wouldn't be fun. I'll say that. But I do have.
It wouldn't be fun if it goes badly, but if it works, it would be a lot of fun. Imagine getting to tell that story.
I don't think it would be fun either way.
Afterwards, it would be.
I think at this point, I'm going to look at the little bow pack and say, "You'll negotiate with a dragon, won't you?" And give him a little scruff on the head.
Tries to bite your hand again.
Quickly move it away. We're not quite there yet, but I'm trying.
Sure.
So, like, with that exchange, are you trying to raise that to be your own hunting bow, like the bow user?
We're going to start as friends. I think that's where we're going to start.
If you were going to start as friends, it's a really bad start, Calidus.
Everything's a start. I'm happy with any progress at all. If he's still biting me now, I mean, it's okay. I like his company.
Okay.
I'll put him back on as a backpack after he tried to bite me. He's in the naughty corner. The naughty corner being the back for now. I'm trying to condition him that if he bites me, he knows he's going to go on as a backpack for a while.
Did you have something there, Brad?
Yeah. I do have a question for Running River. It might be a bit hard to answer. But how does Sovereign decimate a tribe? Does he take them somewhere? Do you see it happen?
As I understand it, the tribe is instructed to select 1/10 of its population, and then that portion of their population travels to Sovereign's lair.
So the deaths are never confirmed.
Well, I suppose not. But nobody returns.
Are you implying what I think you're implying, Garrick?
He could be sending them on a ship as a tithe, as slaves. That is where my head is going here.
The Running River says, I think that is unlikely, even assuming that your spaceships are real. When a tribe refuses, and it has happened before, Sovereign will come and exact the penalty personally.
From what I know of Empire slavers, they'd much rather quell a rebellion with force and lose that small amount of stock than lose the planet itself.
Running River shrugs.
Do you often see a shooting star around the time that the sacrifice goes to Sovereign's lair?
No, not to my knowledge.
Then it was an interesting theory, Garrick, but we've got it's thin.
A shooting star would probably only be a crashing ship, I guess. If it was a small shuttle, you may never notice it.
Yeah, a large ship you'd be able to see from the ground, like inserting into orbit, because you'd be able to see the light of its engine if it was pretty large. Like the Sojourner, for example, if you were looking in the right place, you'd be able to see it in the right place, even in daytime. Just about, you would be able to see it entering orbit. Anything smaller than that, you'd struggle to see it during the day.
something to think about, that these deaths are never seen.
Well, the ones that go into the lair are never seen.
Yes.
The ones where the tribe refuses, that is very public.
Can you recall the last time a tribe refused to give tribute?
No, it was before my life, before I was born, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to think about.
Do you know what tribe it was?
I believe it was the northern people. I don't know a great deal about them. They are insular and don't really interact with the other tribes, partially because of their distance away from us.
That's something we could potentially look into at one point.
They are the tribe that produces myrrh. I believe you've traded for some of that already.
They produce it?
They do.
By any chance, are they the ones that are like white?
No. They're the River Valley people. They're from the mountains.
Okay. Thank you for this knowledge, Ringwither. It's a lot for us to think about.
He nods and says, yes, I imagine it is.
I think on that note, with the knowledge, Calidus would push the bow backpack a bit towards the wall and start to get out his bedroll for the night. He's done some learning.
Sure. So I think
And
on
left
that
his brain tired.
On that note, I think I shall do the same as Calidus is doing.
Wait,
And
you have a bedroll?
I do, but I will be sleeping in a bed tonight. Right, well, thank you all for coming. Lots of exposition today. But we've been the 5e Frontier. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you along for the adventure with us. You can find us on social media. We're most active on Facebook, I believe. Though we're also on Twitter at the 5e Frontier and Instagram at _5e_Frontier. All of these videos, all of these streams get uploaded to YouTube. So if you've missed anything and want to catch up, or you just fancy supporting what we're doing, you can subscribe to this Twitch stream and to the YouTube channel. And if you head over there and give us the old like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And on that note, I will bid you adieu. We've been the 5e Frontier, and we'll catch you again next week.
Goodbye all.